We're going in. President Trump confirms it's when, not if, he expands his crime crackdown to Chicago. Plus, the Defense Department is helping to break through the backlog of immigration cases on the federal docket. And tonight's Powerball jackpot is north of $1 billion. You probably already know the odds of winning are low, but you might be interested to know just how low. Those stories and more today, Wednesday, September 3rd. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. Late Tuesday evening, the House Oversight Committee released more than 33,000 documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein, as you know by now, is the convicted sex offender who died in jail in 2019. The records that are now public were subpoenaed by committee chairman James Comer last month. Now, I'm going to bring you all of the highlights on tomorrow's podcast once our crack team of reporters at the Post sift through this mountain of documents. Now to immigration and a new piece of the Trump immigration plan that's rolling out. The Defense Department is sending 600 military lawyers to the Justice Department to act as temporary immigration judges. This is part of a huge effort by the administration to clear millions of backlogged immigration cases. In a memo, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the first tranche of 150 lawyers would be dispatched to their new assignments, quote, as soon as is practicable. Now, clearing the immigration case logjam is especially important to the president's agenda after a judge blocked the administration's plan to swiftly deport illegal migrants without a hearing. And now let's talk space. President Trump's Space Force is on the move, and the destination is Earth, more specifically, Alabama. The president announced that U.S. Space Command is ditching its temporary headquarters in Colorado and relocating to the Deep South.
The U.S. Space Command headquarters will move to the beautiful locale of a place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City.
The newly minted Rocket City reverses a Biden-era decision to make Colorado Springs the permanent home for Space Command. On paper, Huntsville seems pretty logical. The city is already home to the Army's Redstone Arsenal and NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Now, in making the announcement, though, the president suggested Colorado is losing the Space Force for other reasons, too.
They went to all mail-in voting, so they have automatically crooked elections, and we can't have that. When a state is for mail-in voting, that means they want dishonest elections because that's what that means. So that played a big factor also.
The new Space Command HQ will also help develop America's Golden Dome integrated missile defense program. And now to Ryan Ruth. The would-be assassin of President Donald Trump is heading to trial for allegedly trying to kill the then nominee. In a very perplexing move, Ruth is representing himself, and the judge in this case, Trump appointee Aileen Cannon, came down hard on him at a status conference yesterday. Ruth, well, he has to dress the part, meaning professional attire. He has strict guidelines for how to address witnesses, and most importantly, Cannon warned him that he better behave. Quote, if you make any sudden movements, marshals will take decisive and quick action to respond. Now, the judge was initially hesitant to grant Ruth's request to act as his own counsel, urging him to make a different choice. Whenever a defendant in a high-profile case like this one plays the role of lawyer, the proceedings, they tend to be a bit of a circus. Like, take, for instance, this one-page court filing to exclude prosecutorial evidence, in which Ruth included a challenge to the president, quote, a round of golf with the racist pig. He wins, he can execute me. I win, I get his job. Adding, sorry, hillbilly Vance. Yeah, that was in actual legal documents. Now, jury selection is slated for this coming Monday, with opening statements expected later in the week. The timing, just a few days shy of the one-year mark since the attempted assassination. On September 15th of 2024, Donald Trump was playing golf at his West Palm Beach country club when prosecutors say Ruth put into motion a plot to kill the Republican nominee. Now, this alleged plot was foiled by Secret Service agents, and now Ruth will face a jury of his peers. Now to our big story. The Trump crime crackdown is growing. The where appears to be Chicago, but the when is still up in the air, according to the president.
Make your mind up on Chicago, though?
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in.
That's President Trump yesterday at the White House, telling reporters that Chicago and Baltimore are next in line to get federal agents on the ground to corral crime. The Windy City just went through a really violent Labor Day weekend. The final numbers are ugly. 8 killed, 58 shot. Now, with a downturn in crime after federal troops poured into Washington, D.C., the administration seems to have momentum as it looks ahead to other cities. But there are still some legal questions. So to help me make sense of it all, joining me now, Deputy Managing Editor of the New York Post, Michael Zenny. Michael, the president has been eyeing Chicago as the next move in his crime crackdown for a while now. I have talked about it ad nauseum on the podcast. Coming off of the heels of such a violent Labor Day weekend there, are we getting a sense of how people in the Windy City are feeling about this?
Hey, Caitlin. So Cook County, which is where Chicago is, Trump got less than 25% of the vote in 2024, right? So this is not really friendly territory. What we're hearing is that most people who seem to be speaking out are not in favor of this plan from the president, although they do admit that they need and want more help fighting crime in Chicago. And that said, there are also a few Republican groups and Republican-leaning folks on the South Side who have said that they would welcome intervention from the president on this.
So first it was Chicago and New York, and then there seemed to have been some backtracking a bit on the New York side. Then it's Chicago and Baltimore. Do we have any idea of a timeline for if it is Chicago, if it is Baltimore, when that would be?
Yeah, so the president in his most recent comments reiterated that he is going in. They are going to send troops into some of these cities. But he also specifically said, I won't say when. I'm not going to tell you when. So the short answer is no. And it does seem that he is looking around the country increasingly at where he sort of wants to use this to make a political point. Of course, Baltimore is in Maryland. It also has a very high homicide rate, I believe higher than Chicago's. And, the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, is someone who is seen as a potential Democratic contender in the next cycle.
It's interesting to try to parse out the actual crime side of it and what's happening on the ground, and then also the political implications around the decisions of when and where and how. It leads me kind of to my next question about what this will look like in other places, because Washington, D.C., as we know, it's the District of Columbia. It's not a state, so it isn't governed the same way. And earlier this year, the president had sent National Guard troops into Los Angeles during those immigration protests. And yesterday, a federal judge ruled that that move was illegal. So do you feel like that decision could potentially hamstring the president's plans for other U.S. cities?
So the ruling that came down specifically said it was only about Los Angeles. That's one thing to keep in mind. But a lot of legal experts are saying that based on this ruling, it could potentially make other challenges to the president mobilizing the National Guard against the state governor's wishes, more viable. But again, as with most of the legal fights involving President Trump and Democratic lawmakers, this one's likely to end up in the Supreme Court, right? I think we're all expecting to see this ruling get appealed and eventually, be decided by a higher court.
The rulings these days almost lose their might a little bit. You see that the court rules one way or the other, and you just kind of roll your eyes and say, okay, that's headed for appeal. And then that is going to go to appeal. And then that's going to go to appeal. And as you said, yep, we will likely be seeing this at the Supreme Court. SCOTUS will have to make that decision. Our Michael Zenny, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My friends, you could be listening to dead air right now. Instead, I'm here, which means I didn't win the Powerball, so I had to keep coming to work this week. Once again, there was no winner. The Powerball jackpot for tonight's drawing is at an absurd $1.3 billion. Now, if you're rolling the dice and trying to get your hands on it like we all are, I gotta tell you, the odds are stacked against you. A decade ago, lotto commissioners added 10 numbers to the ball pool. Now, the shift made winning something easier, but winning the top prize ridiculously hard. Before the change, you had a 1 in 175 million shot at the jackpot. Now it's 1 in 292.2 million. You have better odds of becoming president, being eaten by a shark, or getting struck by lightning twice than hitting the Powerball. A mathematician that the Post spoke to put it like this, quote, "I'm going to pick 1 second in the last 9.2 years. Now tell me which second I picked." Well, that's bleak and depressing, but he also said more tickets equal better odds, though even 100 chances won't give you that big of a leg up. But it's not impossible. 5 people have won more than $1 billion playing Powerball in the past. Fingers crossed, my friends. And finally, a mani-pedi is an essential part of self-care for people across the globe, myself included. Well, a new European rule is going to upset salon trips for those who opt for gel over normal polish. The EU is banning a substance called TPO. That's the critical ingredient in the top coat that gives gel nails that oh-so-glossy sheen and helps it dry faster under UV light. It's kind of the whole point of getting gel to begin with. Gel is more expensive, but it dries instantly and it lasts longer. Bad news, several studies show the ingredient can cause infertility issues. Not all gel polishes contain TPO, but many do. Now, the European ban kicked in on Monday, and it requires salons to liquidate stockpiles of gels with TPO. All of them, right now, no exceptions. The ban won't have an impact on you or me getting your gel Lincoln Park After Dark manicure for fall. Here in the US, TPO isn't banned here, but you do have options from some of the biggest brands like OPI that do have TPO-free products. That story there has made it painfully clear that it is pedicure time for me. We do not want to have our talons clicking on the ground like the Jurassic Park raptors, because mine are almost there. You know, scrolling through the New York Post in print or online, a great option for those hours in the salon. And don't forget, of course, like and follow the New York Postcast on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It helps other people find this podcast too. And we're gonna need them to do it now before I win the Powerball, change my name, and you never hear from me again.